Hello Channel NITT viewers, I am DS your psychologist and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. In one of our previous episodes, we talked about the TeSe loop, which is exclusive for the ENTJ. So when an MBTI type goes on a loop, what they do is they sack or dismiss their auxiliary function, which I also call the co-pilot. Given that each of the 16 MBTI types is going to have a totally different cognitive stack, this means we have 16 different loops to talk about.
It's true! Fruity blue treasure! Blue Fruit Loop cereal!
So in this episode, we are going to talk about the INTJ in a loop, and their loop is called the NiFi Loop. Here we can see this is the cognitive stack of the INTJ. They use NI as their dominant function, TE is their auxiliary function, FI is their tertiary function, and their fourth function, which is their inferior function, is SE. When the INTJ no longer trusts the second function, which is the auxiliary function, they will now go onto a NiFi loop. What are some signs that an INTJ is in a NiFi loop? First, they bypass thinking. They do not think logically. There is very imbalanced decision making. Most of the time, they may even use their emotions to make decisions. Since they have set TE as their co-pilot, they are very likely to bypass thinking altogether. An INTJ in a NiFi loop may engage in irrational fantasies. They may also show a loss of focus. Now, given that both NI and FI are introverted functions, this also means that the INTJ is more withdrawn, more insular, and much more introverted than usual. You will see very little of this INTJ because this INTJ in a NiFi loop has totally withdrawn into his or her own world. So the INTJ in a NiFi loop is very likely to seclude themselves from other human beings, and they enjoy themselves very much when in a NiFi loop because it feels very comfortable for them. So what may cause an INTJ to go on a NiFi loop? There are three possible scenarios for this. First, TE is actually encouraging the INTJ to do some things that are uncomfortable, such as being vulnerable and fall in love with someone.
Let us fall in love.
In this case, TE will help the INTJ to plan for the future with this potential new partner. However, falling in love itself can make the INTJ feel very uncomfortable. So sometimes they find that this is too hard, so they dismiss TE altogether. So in other words, going on a NiFi loop is a defense mechanism for the INTJ because they do not enjoy the anxiety of being vulnerable. But unfortunately, once they set TE, they become worse. But unfortunately for the INTJ, when they set TE, they also limit themselves for growth. A second reason why an INTJ may go on a NiFi loop is that there is environmental imbalance. So the circumstances surrounding the INTJ or the environment in which the INTJ is based in may not have enough opportunities for the INTJ to exercise TE. As a result, TE is underdeveloped. So if you are placed in an environment which does not require you to analyze and think regularly, sooner or later, you might become so comfortable in your environment that you do not need TE anymore. A third explanation for why the INTJ may go on a NiFi loop is that they value their internal world so much that they do not want to develop their TE. This is because TE is a function that attempts to get the INTJ to get out to face the world. However, because the INTJ is so comfortable in their own shell, they do not want to face the world. In this case, they set their TE and they will go on a NiFi loop. When an INTJ is very entrenched in his or her NiFi loop, they might also demonstrate self-centeredness. They might show extreme uncertainty and irrational behavior. They might do things that they don't usually do. Although the NiFi Loop can feel very comfortable, but for some INTJs in a NiFi Loop, they can actually feel insecure.
I know I tend to get so insecure.
So now let us look at two different examples of an INTJ in a NiFi Loop. First, let us consider an INTJ considering a future potential partner. Yeah, again. Sometimes an INTJ may like or have an attraction towards a particular person. However, most of the time the INTJ is not going to do anything about it. Over time, they may even convince themselves that this person is not going to like them back. What is going to happen is that when they do so, they start to ignore external evidence that that other person also possibly likes them. When a healthy INTJ likes a particular person, what they may do is that they may go online and do some proper research on this person. They might stalk this person on social media. When an INTJ is in a NiFi Loop, they fail to do so. They totally rely on their own emotions, and in this case, the FI usually negates any confirming evidence. So presume the person just comes over and talk to them. The INTJ in a NiFi Loop will just say that, oh, this is because they are just trying to ask me a question, there's nothing more to it. He or she doesn't like me. As a result, the INTJ in a NiFi Loop is also not going to do proper logical analysis of the situation. Because the INTJ in a NiFi Loop does not want to be vulnerable at all. So what they do is they create their own fantasy, their own conspiracy that this person doesn't like them, and always believe so. They may even interpret all confirming evidence as negative. This is done just to protect themselves. This is totally unhealthy. You know, if you try to protect yourself from being hurt, you are indirectly hurting yourself. But the INTJ in a NiFi Loop doesn't care about this. They act very illogically. If that is TE, the INTJ may seriously consider this relationship and take small steps towards the other person. This is a healthy INTJ situation because they would have analyzed this person enough to know whether this person is a possible candidate for love. However, an INTJ in a NiFi Loop totally does not even want to consider this person. So INTJs, have you been on a NiFi Loop before? You are really denying yourself of a future potential happiness. Another possible situation for the INTJ in a NiFi Loop is that the INTJ may actually believe that a close friend no longer wants to be their friend. So they may have texted a friend, but the friend fails to reply. So they treat it as a sign that the friend does not want to talk to them. An INTJ in a NiFi Loop does not use TE at all because TE has been sacked. If TE had been present, TE would be there to try to gauge the situation. TE is this ability to think from the other person's point of view. So under normal circumstances, a healthy INTJ may think that, okay, the person may not reply because the person is busy. The person may not reply because the person is caught up with some things. But when an INTJ is in a NiFi Loop, TE is not present, so they do not think from the other person's point of view, they only think from their own emotional point of view. So an INTJ in a NiFi Loop is very likely to believe in his or her own conspiracy theory. So some other person may be having a problem. They may have gotten themselves accidentally pregnant. They may have been dumped. So that is why they are very upset themselves and unable to answer your call. Or if you see them, they just look away because they have to handle their own problems. They don't have the energy or the bandwidth to respond to you. But the INTJ in a NiFi Loop, because of FI, may tend to become very personal with such things. and it goes on a spiral, this is totally unhealthy. So as you can see, as I have explained, the INTJ in a very serious NiFi loop can become very self-centered, irrational, and insecure. So how should an INTJ in a NiFi loop get out of this NiFi loop? If you are aware that you are in a NiFi loop, there are a few things that you can do to get yourself out of this. But first, of course, you have to recognize that you are in a loop, which is unhealthy. It is actually very difficult for an INTJ in a loop to get out of this loop because this loop actually feels very comfortable. The INTJ is very used to protecting themselves. In order for the INTJ to get out of the NiFi loop, they have to step out back onto the external world. So what some INTJs do is that they try to engage SE, which is their inferior function. So some INTJs may start to indulge in sex, drugs, compulsive buying behavior, or they just do something that is very unusual, like excessively exercising.
But shit, it was 99 cents. I get copping it, washing it.
So this is also not a good way for the INTJ to actually get back into a normal healthy route. So one of the best ways is to activate TE again by engaging logic in whatever that you try to do. So most of the time, the INTJ in a NiFi loop needs to pause and try to activate logic all the time. So with practice, TE will come back and take the co-pilot seat. And over time, you will be able to get out of the loop. So every MBTI type has the potential to shine. So when you are in a loop, you definitely lose this opportunity to be your personal best. So I hope that this episode has helped all the INTJs in a NiFi loop to become aware that you are in a loop. In our future episodes, we will talk about the other loops of the other MBTI types. If you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more loops. And MBTI material. Our channel also does a lot of videos on psychological principles because this channel is a Singapore channel that does psychological videos. So do watch our other videos as well. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in our next episode. Goodbye!